Hello all and welcome back to Mr. Nieto's video lessons. In today's lesson we will be working on a few problems dealing with the addition and subtraction of rational numbers. I would advise you to follow along with a piece of scratch paper and work the problems out as I complete them with the video. Now let's begin. Our first problem for the day will be -2 plus 4. Pretty simple. If we remember back to our previous lessons, we know when adding signs of different signs, a negative and a positive, we always take the absolute value of the bigger number, which in this case is 4, and subtract the absolute value of the smaller number, which is 2. So 4 minus 2 would be 2. Because the bigger number was a positive 4, our answer for this problem would be 2. Let's look at another similar problem, adding integers of different signs. In this problem, we have a positive 3 plus a negative 8. Following the steps of the previous problem, we know we need to take the absolute value of the bigger number, which is negative 8, and subtract the absolute value of the smaller number, which is 3. When subtracting 3 from 8, we receive a 5. In this case, our larger absolute value comes from a negative number, so we carry that negative value. So our answer becomes -5. Let's now look at a problem, dealing with a rational number. In this case of this problem, we're going to have a -2.1 plus a -3.9. Because we see that both problems or both numbers are negative, we know our answer will also be a negative. Now we would just add 2.1 and 3.9 by lining up our decimals and then adding down. 1 plus 9, of course, would equal 10. Drop the 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 3 would equal 6. Our answer ending being a -6. Let's now look at a problem with fractions. The problem we will work with is -7/8 plus 3/8. When dealing with fractions in addition or subtraction, we first want to make sure that our denominators match up. In the case of this problem, both denominators are 8. So we know in the end we will have an 8th value. We can now focus our attention on the numerators of -7 and 3. -7 plus a 3 we would treat just like any problem of adding opposite signs. We would take the absolute value of 7, the bigger number, minus the absolute value of 3, the smaller number, coming to an answer of 4, keeping the negative sign of the larger value. So our answer would be -4/8. If we look at it, common multiple, or a factor of both, would be 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2, with a simplified answer of -1/2. Let's now turn our focus to subtraction. The first problem we want to work with is a 31 minus -9. If we remember the lessons we've covered before, when subtracting a negative number is the same of adding its opposite. So 31 minus -9 would be the same as 31 plus 9. And of course 31 plus 9, we get an answer of 40. The next problem we're dealing with is 15 minus 18. Looking at the problem, we notice that 18 is larger than 15. a way to work this problem is to make it an addition problem. Just like in the previous problem, when subtracting a negative number is like adding a positive number, subtracting a positive number is like adding its negative number. So in that case, this would be 15 plus negative 18. Now we have a problem with different signs and adding. And that's when we can look back to our rule of absolute values of the larger minus absolute value of the smaller, keeping the sign of the larger. And 18 minus 15, as we see, is 3. And because negative 18 had the largest absolute value, we keep the negative, ending with the answer we did. Let's now look at a subtraction problem using decimals. In our problem, 4.5 minus 2.5, we see that 4.5 is a larger number than what is being subtracted from it. In that case, we can line up our problem, 4.5, subtract 2.5, making sure we line up our decimals correctly, and then just subtract normally. 5 subtracted for 5, 0, drop our decimal. 2 subtracted for 4 is 2, leaving us with an answer of 2. For our final problem of the night, we are going to work with subtraction using fractions. The problem we'll be working with is shown already, negative 2 1/3 minus a negative 1/3. If we remember from previous lessons, when we subtract any number, it's like adding its opposite. So the subtraction of negative 1/3 would be the same as writing this problem as negative 2 1/3 plus 1/3. Because we have one mixed number and one fraction, we want to make both of these numbers a fraction, even if an improper fraction is used. To do this, we need to make 2 1/3, negative 2 1/3, a fraction. To do that, we need to multiply 2 by 3, then add the 1. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, coming to an improper fraction of negative 7/3 plus 1/3. Because both denominators match up, we know that our answer will eventually have a denominator of 3, and we can focus solely on the negative 7 and the plus 1. Because again, we have different signs, a negative 7 and a positive 1, we're going to take absolute value of negative 7, subtract the absolute value of 1, coming to an answer of 6, bringing down the sign of the bigger number, which is negative. So we have a negative 6, making our answer a negative 6/3, which we know can be broken down to an answer of negative 2.